Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andy. As I said, I'm the cloud solutions consultant who specializes in Microsoft 365, in particularly the Office 365 platform. So a little bit about myself. I've been working for Jisc for just over a year now. I came from the EduServe part of the merger, which I assume most people are aware of. And my background has been sort of back office systems, but a lot of document management, a lot of SharePoint. I've kind of got very into Teams since we started using it as EduServe a couple of years ago. It's almost entirely replaced a lot of us as use of Outlook, so it's been a huge thing for us. Um, I'm glad to see that most people are using it, and I'm also interested that no one is yet using it in a classroom environment, which is obviously what I was going to go over today. So pushing on, Teams. Those of you who haven't seen it yet, I saw that some of you are still in the sort of the planning stage. Teams is Microsoft's new baby, really, in the Office platform. It was released a couple of years ago as a, let's be honest, a competitor to Slack. I should think 2 years ago, Microsoft's approach under Steve Ballmer would have been to just buy Slack, but these days they've gone and done their own thing, which is a really good thing because it's much better integrated with the Office platform. So what Teams gives us, it's communication. So it can be chat, it can be meetings, it can be phone calls, it can be a telephone system as well. Myself, I have an outside number in my team, so my laptop is effectively my complete office these days. Um, it's a collaboration platform, so as well as the communication, we can share files, we can work together, we can kind of meet and discuss things as we're looking at them in the platform as well. It's customizable. There's a lot of apps beginning to appear. I'm yet to see many people really embrace this, but it's something Microsoft are really pushing quite hard now. Um, there are some quite useful apps starting to appear to really kind of extend what the platform can do. And like all of Office 365, it is fully embedded in with their security and compliance center. So it's, as Microsoft say, you can trust the system to look after your work. It is safe. It is designed from the ground up to be secure. I won't talk about a lot of that today because that is probably a huge subject in its own right. But people ask me a lot, can I trust it? Can I share? And the answer is always absolutely you can. A few numbers from Microsoft. These are probably 6 months old now, but just it has been a massive investment for Microsoft in the last couple of years. Getting to be used, certainly in business, almost completely, probably helped by the fact that so many people use Office 365 and it's included with your license. So it's kind of a no-brainer for some people. Why not use it when you've got it? So Teams for Businesses has been a huge success. The education, if you have an education subscription, like I'm assuming pretty much everyone here does, you get Teams, but it's slightly different. It adds a few extra bits. So the first thing people tend to notice when you launch Teams the first time, if you've seen it before, is when you create a new team, there are 4 options which you don't get in the business subscriptions. So in the business, you just get a new team, which is actually the other option, which is showing here. But the first 3, the most important one, the one we're going to deal with really today, is the class, which is Teams to run in a classroom environment. So this adds in some various features which I will demonstrate some of and we'll talk about a bit later. The PLC one is similar to a class, but it's a teacher-to-teacher learning, sort of professional development type thing. Staff is not really used very much, but it's sort of like an administration type one. There is a website. I've got a link in the downloadable slide deck, which actually gives a full description of what these 4 are and what the differences are. But most of the differences depend on the OneNote notebook, which gets added to it, the permissions that the different users have to it, and with the class one, you get the assignment section, which is really key. So talking about assignments, in the class thing, it's the area where you can create homework, assignments as Americans like to call it. So you can manage this entire process from within the Teams client. The work can be sent out, it can be worked on by the students or your class in the Teams application itself, or if you have one of the 3 or 5 level licenses and you actually do have the desktop client, you can do it directly within Word or Excel or whichever application you've chosen to use for the particular piece of work. The students can assess the work, they can work on it, they can hand it in, and I will demonstrate all this later on in this session. And then the teacher can receive the work, they get notifications, they can read it through, they can mark, they can have comments, and they can pass the mark back to the student. The application now, one of the recent upgrades to Teams, which I think was sometime in winter before Christmas, they added the first steps of the gradebook, which gives a much nicer interface for the teacher and for the students to sort of see their progress through the year with the work they do. The other quite key bit which is added into the Teams client when you're using it in this sort of environment is the class notebook. Class notebook's been part of the Office 365 and Education suite for a while now, but it's now tightly integrated within Teams. So if you haven't used Class Notebook, it is essentially OneNote, but set up in a specific way to be a place to work within a class environment. So there's, as you can see from the image on the right, there's 3 main sections you get within the Class Notebook. The collaboration space is open for everyone in the class, teachers and students, to work together. It's kind of thought of as a class project area. There's a content library, which is only editable by the teacher and the students can read it. So think of this as kind of an electronic textbook. You can save your coursework there. Is available for everyone to read. They can access it as and when, but as I said, only the teacher can edit it. And then each student gets their own secure section, which is only visible by themselves, which is their exercise book area. Now the teacher can see everyone's student notebook, but the students can only see their own. And as I said earlier, it's extendable. There are an ever-growing list of third-party applications which you can add in. There's some which are dedicated for education. There's an enormous list of them. A lot of them are very small and simple. Some of them are specific for IT use, like you can see GitHub, Jira Cloud, things like that on the image here. Most of them do require a subscription, and there's kind of monthly costs for some of these, so it's quite hard for us to demonstrate many of these because they kind of are going to cost us a lot of money to do so. But it's it's worth looking through the list, seeing if there's anything there which is kind of applicable to kind of what you're trying to achieve. The other thing which Teams obviously does is the meetings. So as I said, you can do online meetings with it. There's 2 sorts of meetings worth probably just covering these. 250 users in a meeting. I think you'd be brave to try and do that with more than about 20 because everyone starts talking at once. It gets a little bit chaotic, but it's audio and video. You can record it. It can be automatically uploaded into Stream, and it will transcribe it automatically with an ever-growing list of languages which Microsoft supports. You can chat, you can share, you can have notes attached to the meeting. It's all kind of part of that. The other bit is live events, which is essentially very similar to the Adobe Connect product, which we're currently using. Microsoft are kind of pushing for this now to kind of compete with Connect and the Zooms and the other kind of platforms. Live events does a very similar thing, but as you can see, it's up to 10,000 users. There's no audio back from the participants, only from the presenter, and it kind of has the host system which we're using, which Edward's been using today, and Q&A sort of management stuff like that. Again, real-time captioning, so it can translate in real time. As you can see, as it says 6 now, I have a feeling that might have just gone up to a couple more. So if you're broadcasting around the world or your other languages, it can automatically translate for you while you're doing that. Now, the reason I wanted to point these out is there are videos which are worth hunting down. I can provide links to them where Microsoft have a professor in a university in Australia who's one of their poster boys for Teams in education. he demonstrates recording his classes to an engineering class of about 500 people, which he presents. He does the whole thing in Teams and he records it, and it's available online for anyone who wasn't able to make the meeting. It's definitely worth having a look. And I can, as I said, I can provide the links to that. So there's a lot of resources. I'll just whiz through what they are. The education homepage is Microsoft's central portal for all things of their software portfolio to do with education. There's the dedicated Teams University. I believe there's an AKA/MS/Teams University redirect for that, but there is the actual URL there. That is specific to the kind of university sector. There's a lot of resources here, and I said he's called Dr. Kellerman from Australia. He has a new video, definitely worth watching, which is on the home page, which he presented at the Inspire conference in summer last year, where he really takes using Teams in the classroom to the next level, bringing in sort of AI bots and business intelligence and stuff. It's really quite interesting how far he's managed to get the product to go for him. The tech community, for the technical side of it, if you want to find out kind of what's going on, there's a lot of resources there. The two interesting things probably are the blogs. It's the home of all the Microsoft software blogs, but there's one for Teams and there's one for education. These tend to have updates every week or so, giving you updates of kind of the new features and plans for the products, as well as some kind of good case studies. If you're kind of interested in staying up to date, that's always kind of worth subscribing to. User Voice, if you haven't discovered that yet, User Voice is a platform Microsoft use for getting end user feedback and suggestions of what they want the product to do. I've put the link for the Teams User Voice. It's interesting to look at because you can see, because Microsoft comment on the suggestions which you can vote on. So you can see what's been talked about a lot, and you can see which ones Microsoft are actually actively working on because they will mark it as such. So it kind of gives you an idea what to look forward to in the next few months. And I said the last link, there's a page there on a support page Microsoft have hidden away, which actually describes those 4 templates and the kind of the differences between them. So if you want to kind of just see the differences, that's the place to go. So before I move on to try and do some demonstration, I've got a question from Christine who says, Teams for business. If you have the business option, the meetings are the same. The only difference between business and educational is the Teams class templates, the 4 different options, but everything else should be exactly the same. Let's see if there's any more questions. The live events, there is an additional license, but you only need to license the one person who's presenting. You don't need to license your entire subscription for it. So yes, there is an extra cost, but not for many people. So there's no more questions there. Edward, we flip over and I'll try and see how we get on with the live demo. Okay, so this is my Teams client. I have a demo tenant set up. So I'm going to start with the teacher view. So this is the actual desktop client. I have a teacher who I've created who's called David Jones, who is logged into this client. Now, just to warn you, the demoing does rely on me trying to be 4 people at the same time on one login, which sometimes doesn't always play ball with Microsoft, which kind of gets a bit confused by that, but we'll see how we get on. So David Jones is my teacher. He's an English teacher who's teaching A-level. So he has 2 classes he's currently got set up. I have quickly, just for those people who haven't seen Teams, I'll give you a quick overview of the client which you see in front of you. So down the left-hand side, we have a number of buttons. The activity is just your running commentary of what's happening, anywhere you get mentioned, any conversation you're involved with, any replies you get, they will all get flagged up here, and clicking on any of the activities in the feed will kind of highlight that page, as you can see. So chat is a kind of one-to-one or one-to-many kind of instant chatting platform. You can add people in, you can share files in this. So as you can see, I've got two people I've currently been chatting with. So Peter Roberts is another teacher. He doesn't exist, but he's just been asked out for lunch. As you can see, the full chat history is kept. There's files I can share. This is all tied into the user's OneDrive. So if you upload any files and share them, they get automatically put into your OneDrive. The security is all taken care of for you, so the access is controlled. Up on the top right-hand corner, you can see that we have meeting options. So I can video call, I can telephone call, both of which work with anyone in your tenant. You don't need to have the telephone subscriptions for that to work. If you want to talk to someone outside your organization, obviously you do, but within your organization or to other federated organizations using Teams, you can talk to them using kind of voice and video. I can share desktop, so you could use it as a way to ask for help from someone, or if you want to just talk about something you're working on. You can add more people into the conversation. You can rename the conversation when you start having more people. So if you start talking about kind of Project X, you can just rename the chat to Project X so it's more meaningful, makes it easier to search for stuff. I'm going to just skip over the Teams because obviously that's the core bit we're going to come back to, likewise with assignments. The calendar option, this is the user's personal calendar. The team itself as yet doesn't really have a proper calendar. It's definitely one of the things very high up on the user voice list, and I suspect we'll see something new about that, hopefully this year, if not before the conference in the summer. The call section, this is where you can actually make phone calls, direct teams to teams, and if you have the call package included in your subscription, you'll get a little dialing pad down here and you can just dial people straight out. You get a file shortcut where it shows your recent files, files within the Teams, files within the user's OneDrive. So it kind of gives you a recent file list of things you're currently working on in the order you last accessed them. So going back to Teams, as I said, this is David Jones. He's an English teacher. He's teaching A-level. He teaches the first year and the second year. So he's got a separate class created. These are made with the class template. He has two classes. So the first year, if I click on the class, I get this view here. Now, just get my notes up. So the left-hand side, as you can see, I have a team. The name, I can put an icon on it, which can be meaningful, either from a selection which Microsoft provide, which is this one is kind of, they're quite cartoony, or you can just upload any image of your own. I've got the team name, and then I have a number of channels. So if you create a team, you will always have the general channel. You can then add in as many channels as you want to have to kind of work the way you want to work. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's whatever works for you. The membership, I can manage the team, and if you've used Teams before, you've probably come across the idea that we have owners and members. Now in a class environment, the teacher is always the owner. The students are all members. So you can see there are 5 students who I've created who are members of this team. Their presence light would show up, obviously, because it's all on the same laptop. They're not kind of registering at the moment, but you can see if people are online, David Jones has got the green tick, which means he's on. It's just updating that they have been logged in, which because they're on the other screens, but they are not active at the moment. So the membership is controlled through the idea of the Office 365 groups, which Microsoft released a couple of years ago. These are all centrally managed in your 365 tenant, but as the owner, you can add people to that group. So if David Jones wants to add another student, he can just simply add them in here. He doesn't need to go into any portal. But for the techies out there, that's the underlying technology. It is the 365 group. There is also a SharePoint site which is sitting underneath this as well. And I'm not going to talk about that now. I've noticed a few of you did say you would be interested in talking about SharePoint, which I'll be always happy to do. It's one of my favorite subjects. So maybe at some point we can do another session like this talking specifically about SharePoint. But there is a SharePoint site under this. Teams is effectively a communication layer which sits on top of that SharePoint site. But it's the site which controls where the files are stored, how the security is done, and who's going to got access to which component. Now, for this example, I created this team myself as the user, David Jones, the teacher. If you've got, I'm getting lights flashing now. Ed, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Andy. Yeah, you're just getting an indicator that the message has come through on the chat pod. That's all.
Oh,
So that's all that
that's
stuff.
fine. I'll come back to the questions later. So as a teacher, you can create your teams from scratch yourself. Now, if you've got hundreds of these to do, that might be a bit laborious. Microsoft do have a system they call School Data Sync. Again, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that now, but the essential principle of that is it will tie into your school information system, whatever your MIS is, and automatically create the teams as you create the classes within that. Now, it has API connectivity with a few. I've not found anyone in this country who uses those ones yet. I suspect they're aimed at the American market, but most MIS systems will export a CSV file on a schedule, and School Data Sync can automatically pick that up on a schedule. So there is generally, I've been told, good support. It just needs maybe a little bit of work by the IT departments, but it can be done so that your teams are automatically created. Um, they've just announced last few weeks that they've updated that, so the teacher now gets advanced access to the team, which they didn't before, so they can go in and set it up and upload their resources. But moving on with the team, if we look at one of the channels, so the general channel, as I said, you get by default, it's always there. Every channel has a set of conversations, so people can talk. There's announcements and things get put in here. There's a files tab where you can share files. The general one always has the class materials. This is a new feature which was added recently. This is a locked down library, which again, the teacher only has access to. He can upload his kind of coursework and stuff in there and share it out with people. There's a class notebook. Access is provided here. So when you create a new class, you always get the class notebook created with it. And you can see from the teacher's point of view, these are the sections you get. I can see every section from the students. There's a teacher only section, which is an option which I've turned on for this class, but that's essentially the same as the student one. It gives the teacher somewhere they can hold information which is private to them. All these pages the teacher can distribute out. So for example, if you had a piece of your coursework in your teacher section, like in this case, I've got some notes for Hamlet. At some point, I could share this out to my students from this panel, and they would all get a copy put into their own section, at which point they get control. They can edit it, amend it, update it, or whatever they want to do with it. I was just showing the OneNote application, which is built into Windows 10. It is still, I believe, installed as part of the Office Pro Plus installation, but I think that's dropping out with the next version of Office. It's going to be just the Windows included version. But this gives the same view. As I said, I can distribute.
Sorry, Andy. You just need to share your screen again in Adobe Connect. There's nothing
Sorry.
being shared at the moment. That's okay. That's it.
Are we back? So as I say,
Yes.
as the teacher, I can take a section, I can distribute it, I can push out a copy to my students as and when I'm ready for them to see that, so I don't overwhelm them with the entire coursework in first day of their starting their course. So one of the new features which also came out probably in the last couple of months, it's one of the most requested things on the user voice was the idea of a private channel. So at the moment before this came out, um, everybody in the team could see everything in every channel. You would have to create a separate team to separate that. So as you can see, I've come up with the idea that there might be some Oxbridge students who the teacher wants to work with independently and he doesn't want the rest of the class to be involved with this. So I've created a private channel as indicated by the little padlock. So this operates in exactly the same way from the user's point of view as a normal channel, but if you're not a member, you won't actually see it. It could be, we use this a lot for kind of project work. So we have a channel where we can have the project team working, where we have guests from our customer. They're not involved with that. So there's various use cases, but this was an example I came up with for this classroom. Okay, so if I just try and jump to a student. So here we have a student. She's running Teams in a browser. As you can see, she is in this Oxbridge group, so she sees it. Other members of the class won't. And just to save memory, hopefully keep my PC working a bit faster, I'll close this one down and I will jump to another student. So here is another student who's not a member of that group. He doesn't even know it exists, so there's no kind of worries that even the title of the channel, which might be something you don't want people to know about, they don't see it is even there at all. Okay, so going back to my teacher, let's talk about assignments. So as a teacher, I can create an assignment, which I can do either from the general tab or there's the button on the left-hand side. And as you can see, currently for this class, I've got 2 assignments I've created, which have been sent out to my users. So there are two sorts of assignments you can create. You can either make one as a quiz, which is based on Microsoft Forms, which this one is, the Hamlet quiz one, which is 10 questions about Hamlet, which got sent out. It's multiple choice. You can, if you've used Microsoft Forms, you can obviously create quite complex quizzes for these, but I kept this one simple. It's 10 questions. One of the nice things about these is that if you stick with multiple choice type answers, you can actually have the form mark itself as the students complete them and send them in. So can make people's lives a bit easier. So if I click on the assignment, I can see the status of all my students. You can see Chris Green, he's actually done his and he sent it in. He got 9 out of 10. I can see whether people have viewed it. So I know Ben's looked at it, and I can see the other 3 students haven't even opened the link yet. So I can keep track of who's kind of completed the work, who's kind of still kind of not engaging with it. It's a way to kind of keep track of a bit of analytics of your class. The other one is a word-based one. So I asked them to write an essay, and again, you can see this tab that Chris has completed his. It's been marked, it's been sent back to him. I put some feedback, so you can keep the kind of student informed. The handing in and the return of student can be repeated, so you can send it back. And because it's Word, you can put comments on the file and say, no, I'm not very happy about this part of the work. Could you do this bit again? The student can then reopen it and resubmit it. So it can bounce backwards and forwards a little bit until everyone's kind of happy with it. There's also the option for a student to send some work in and then suddenly panic and change their mind and unhand it in and get it back again and do some more work on it if they want to. And I will, in a second, I will create an assignment and just demonstrate that. So from a student's point of view, so if you look on the screen here, this is a student called Ben who has received, you see he gets an announcement quite bold in the general chat. He will get alerts on his activity when an assignment is handed out. So he has received these both. He has actually written his essay, which is here. the file is automatically sent out and dealt with. I don't need to worry about where the file's kept. The platform is dealing with this all for me. It's all being kept in special libraries in the SharePoint site underneath. The student receives his notification, he gets his instructions, which is quite brief in my example. You can send out a blank form for them to fill in, a blank Word document in this case. You can also attach notes. You can attach further kind of documents, pages from the OneNote class notebook as well, so the student can get a pack of everything they need to complete the work. As soon as he's finished, he just clicks turn it in. For reasons that only Microsoft can explain, you do get strange animations when a student does this, but his work is now done. As you can see, he's got an undo. As I said, if he suddenly thinks, oh my God, I forgot to answer question 2, I want to get that back again. But if I go back to my teacher, I can now see that Ben has handed his in. I can click on it as the teacher and I can read his essay. It's all within the Teams application itself, so I can go through. I said, if I want to edit it, I want to put comments on, anything you want to do in Word, that's fine, you can do that. I can put a comment here, I can give him a score, and I can return the work to him. Simple as that. So at this point, he's gone onto the graded page. I can see his marks. And if I jump back, I'm hoping me jumping around screens is still working okay. If I jump back to Ben's work, there it is. He's got his feedback, he's got his marks straight away. Both students and
Sorry about this, guys. I think we've got a repeat of Andy dropping out and his screen stopping being shared. So just bear with me, and hopefully he'll be back in very soon. Some good chat in the left there. Questions around replacing teams. Replacing Moodle for Teams. It's really interesting. Sure, it needs some more development. That's a lot of the thoughts about people's take on that. So just bear with me. Let me just see if we can get Andy back online. He probably doesn't realise he's been dropped out at the moment.
start the creating assignment.
I don't think so.
Okay. Let me start this section again then, because this was actually the last thing I was going to do.
Okay, great.
So I was just quickly going to demonstrate one thing, which was actually the creation of an assignment. So as I said, I come into the assignments tab, I just go create. I'm going to create an assignment, not a quiz. So the quiz was the Microsoft Forms based option. Create an assignment, give it a title, give it some instructions for the user. I can say how many marks it's going to be. And I was just saying I can assign it to all users or to a subset of users. So for example, you might have some extra work just for a couple of people, or for my example of the Oxbridge students, they might want to have an extra piece of work they need to do. But in this case, I'll do it for all students. I can set the date when it's due by, so the student will be alerted. And I can also set a schedule for it actually to go out, so I can create all my assignments in advance and have them all scheduled kind of week by week as they get released. The due date's also here, and then I have the close date. So by default, the students can actually hand their work in late. The due date is indicative. If I put a close date on, then it's firm. There's no kind of having a few extra days on that. In this case, we'll just put it for Friday, and we assign it out. Now, in my rush to do that, I've just realized that I forgot to give them something to write on, so I'll go back and edit it again. I can add resources, which is here. So again, I can attach things. I can either attach work from my own OneDrive. I want to have some notes they get at. I can take pages from the class notebook, or I can say, here is a new Word document, which we'll call summary. And every student will receive a copy of that. So if I update the work, then now the students get a copy, a blank Word document called summary. They can fill that in and then submit it back in the way I showed earlier. So hopefully on that note, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You've got 20 minutes left. I've been seeing questions or conversation pop up. Let's see what people want to ask.